Did you know we make 6 and 7 figure fertility decisions based on one little teaspoon of dirt? Been doing that for 80 years. There's finally something better. I'm Adam with True Grit Agronomy up in northwest Minnesota, nearing the end of a seemingly endless snowblowing project, and I'm thinking about soil testing. So today I'm going to tell you where it's headed. So prior to the 1950s, back in the 40s and before, a farmer would just guess how much fertilizer he put on. He would use manure from his cattle, just throw some out, rotate crops, and it was always a guess. Then in the 40s or 50s, land-grant universities started developing labs to test soil to determine how much manure to put out there. And then in the 1950s, I believe, late 50s, early 60s, commercial fertilizers came on the scene. A godsend for farmers. Now we could skip the cattle, just spread some plant food out there and go. The problem was they didn't know how much to put out there. So more work went into these soil testing labs, and eventually they became available to the public. Now, the whole point of all this, soil testing. What is a soil test? How do we get one? For the longest time, we would do what's called a conventional soil test. That's where we take a whole field. It could be any size. Around here, a lot of them are 160 acres to 320 acres. And out of that, whatever it is, 160, 320, a farmer or a crop consultant or anybody with a soil probe will go out into the field and take 15, 20, I think they recommend 20 to 25 cores. That is 25 little holes in the ground. They're about an inch wide by however deep you're going. Typically we go to 2 feet. We do 20, 25 of those, and we put all that soil in a bucket. We mix it up really well, and we put it into a little bag. It's about the size of this root beer. We ship it off to the lab. Lab gets it. They mix it up more, dry it down, mix it up even more, and out of that little bag they take a little spoonful of that soil. And they run it through all their gadgets and machines, and they find out how much nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, micronutrients, all that. All that is determined from one little dab of soil out of that, call it 160 acre, 320 acre field, whatever it is. We're basing decisions on a teaspoon. And this is how most guys, if they soil test at all, this is how most guys do it today. But we're kind of hitting a ceiling with that system. Now we have a grid sampling test. So now we have little squares in the field. Call them 5 acre grids across this field. And in each one of those grids, we take out 10, 15, 20 cores in the bucket, grind it down, into the bag, into a teaspoon. So now we have multiple teaspoons off of a field. Better, more accurate, but super expensive, because now if you think about it, instead of one test on a quarter section, 160 acres, you've got a ton of tests, one for each 2.5 acres square. So, better, a little more accurate, but cost prohibitive. So a lot of guys didn't do that. And then in the late 90s, when precision ag really took off, and into the 2000s, we developed what's called zone sampling. So instead of little grids, now we use satellite imagery, we use yield maps, we use topography maps. We use those data points to make what's called a variable rate map. Basically splits your field up into zones. It could be, like I said, elevation, yield, soil type. You make a map, it's a colorful map. Some maps have 5 zones, some have 3. And out of those zones, we'll take 20 to 25 cores. More affordable than grid testing. So that has been the most popular way for the past, call it 20 years. Every step of the way we got better, but we've basically been using the same foundational method for 80 years. Pull, composite, dry, scoop, test. And top soil scientists say our current model, it can't keep up with the hybrids and yield targets we are trying to achieve in modern agriculture. We got better, but we never fixed the resolution problem. We never figured out how to get more accurate than the zone test, because even that, it isn't very much dirt that we're basing these decisions on until Now, I had a meeting with a company called Earth Optics the other day. And they make a scanner. It mounts on a UTV like a Polaris Ranger or John Deere Gator. It's some military grade technology, and it scans the soil. It's a 50-foot wide swath. You can scan the entire field in 15 minutes while still taking soil probes, but not as many as a grid sample. So now this is more affordable than grid sampling and much more accurate, because that scanner measures 40 data points per acre. If you think about that grid sample, that was 0.4 data points per acre. So we are going 100 times more resolution with this. We're still measuring soil nutrients, N, P, K, sulfur, all that stuff. But every metric, every one of those gets its own map, where it's high, where it's low. And on top of that, now we can measure biology. What pests are out there? What pathogens? What diseases might we have? It allows us to be proactive. We've always been reactive in the past. We see disease, we try to go spray for it, but it's too late. So now we can be proactive. One other thing this scanner does, it tells you soil compaction up to 18 inches. So now it might show compacted areas where you have, maybe you've had a problem area for years where a part of the field didn't yield as well. Maybe it's because of compaction. Well, now we can map that out and go out and only till the parts of the field that need to be tilled, so we can save on fuel. We're not doing unnecessary tillage and damaging soil structure. We're just tilling to break up that hard pan, wherever it might be. It just gives us a lot of tools, a lot of data points to be more accurate, to allow us to use even less synthetic fertilizer, be more efficient, and at the end of the day, be more profitable as farmers. And here's the buzzword, more sustainable, more regenerative. And the best part, I'm getting one of these scanners. I'm going to use it on all of Josh's ground this year, so follow along with that. Subscribe if you want to see it, because it's going to be very cool. As soon as the ground thaws out and I can get probes in the dirt, we're going to start running these things. So hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned. Adam Kuznia, True Grit Agronomy. We'll catch you next time.